The 20th episode of In the Am with MC is here, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Hello. How are we doing? Uh, In the Am with MC is pleased to be starting this 20th episode discussing the WNBA. So WNBA has begun their season, 3 or 4 games in, and there's a lot to discuss. So first of all, I want to give props to Nafisa Collier, recently signed to Jordan, and she's been hooping crazy. It's way too early to say this person could be the MVP, but as a player who's coming off of a finals appearance where she was hooping in the finals, um, you could argue that she was the best player on in the entire finals, and then the next best player was Breanna Stewart, and then there was a little drop off, and then the Liberty had the third and fourth best players, but the fact that she was better than a player like Breanna Stewart, kind of undisputedly, is pretty impressive. And obviously, Breanna Stewart is a little bit older than Collier now, but uh, you know, she's just an incredible player. All that UConn legacy. Shout out to Gino Oriyama. She has been playing phenomenal basketball. They just played a game the other day against the Connecticut Sun where they were down by over 20 points. And then she helped them lead an unheralded comeback because she had 33 and 11. Um, Speaking of the Connecticut Sun, two players that I wanted the Las Vegas Aces to draft who are now playing for the Connecticut Sun, which is a franchise that is basically going nowhere. Marina Mabrey is playing decent basketball for them, just like she plays decent basketball for everybody else. But she requested a trade in the offseason, and that trade was not honored. And so she's playing for a team she doesn't want to play for. And that seems to be the theme for a lot of players. I think Tina Charles has given the game so much good. I remember when she was hooping for us. And it's like at this point, let her go play for a team that has a fighting chance. You guys are terrible. Um, but Sanaya Rivers and Anissa Morrow are two players that will have to be in the future for the Sun, whether it's a big trade or whether they stay on the team. They'll likely stay on the team. But they're just so good, the two of them. And Sanaya Rivers, she showcased her versatility the other day. She could run the offense as a point guard, but she can also, play very stout defense on the other side. She can hit a three from time to time, but she puts pressure on the rim, and that's the kind of point guard that I like. It's real old school. I'm from New York. That's what you like, put pressure on the rim. So I just made fun of Cat a little bit. He was like, me and the homies back in New York. Shout out Cat. Shout out Cat. Bodega Cat. We're gonna get to the NBA in the second half of the show, but to continue with some of the WNBA storylines, right? You have uh you have the Chicago Sky, and the reason I want to talk about them next is because they actually had an opportunity to get one of the rookies who's going off right now, Sonia Centrone. They traded the pick, got somebody else, Ariel Adams. Um, what's wrong with y'all front office? I mean, that makes no sense at all. I knew that the front office was a little bit bogus because they fired Coach Teresa Witherspoon, who's a legend in the game of basketball, but also clearly got the most out of her players. As a coach, when you think about evaluating a coach, yes, the bottom line trumps all. I think that the buck stops there, especially when you have certain kinds of business. The bottom line does indeed stop there. That's just like a harsh reality. But if you want to think idealistically after that, right? Like, what is the next evaluative measure? And to me, it's how much are you extracting out of said players? Have you lost the locker room? That's what they talk about, right? So and so lost the locker room. I don't think Teaspoon ever lost the locker room. These people still contact her to this day. She got so much love during Unrivaled for a reason. She's a legend. So I never understood them getting rid of her in the first place. But now you have, a lot of eyes on you because you have one of the most notable players in the league. People can get into the semantics and they can talk about things that aren't statistics, but this is a player who averaged like she averaged a double-double last season, led the league in boards, and the team itself, she is the face of the team. Like I just seen a stat, about Beyonce, about how she brought like a bunch of money to Chicago's economy because of hotel revenue. People came in, they had to stay in the tellies so that they could go see her perform. I think about something similar with a player like Reese. She had that first press conference where she walked into the little area. And people were like, dang, like y'all got her outside like this, da da da. And any change that's going to be made now from an upgrade perspective is deeply influenced by the fact that she's the face of the team. And the team can't have the face going out like that, and she puts people in seats and people buy jerseys. So people be getting caught up in the wrong junk. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of these people are perfect individuals. None of these people are perfect basketball players. It's never been about that. Now, if you want to critique the game, that's a whole nother thing, right? Like, the amount of people who was getting their rocks off when she had a zero field goal game, a Tony Snell, if you will, um, those were not the same people who were raving about some of the things she was able to do last season, or who noticed what she's worked on in the offseason as far as her ball handling and her 3-point shot. Development takes time. I saw Who Politics say that, I think, recently, because it does. I mean, it's a reminder. Like, people be like, so and so worked on this over the summer. Since when is we as human beings have always told ourselves that the summer is a perfect amount of time to build any skill and make it perfect. And that's just not the case. Summer is time for development. So it's a time where you move one step forward in whatever it is that you're pursuing. But there's no guarantee that that thing you're pursuing is going to come to the heed that you would like it to come to just because the summer is over. You know, um, Very early in the season as well. But they had a game versus Caitlin Clark and them, and then Caitlin Clark and them had a game, and in the FIBA they had a game against the Liberty as well, where they lost. They lost against the Dream, and they beat the Dream once they split that little series they had. But I want to talk about the game against the Liberty real quick. That is a good measuring stick for them. The Liberty are reigning champs, and they're a stacked team. And it just added Natasha Cloud, who was enormous in that game, currently averaging like 19, 6, and 6, crazy splits for the veteran. NBA champion when I was in college. Shout out to the Mystics. And I think that well, again, if you want to talk about the sport of basketball, the game of basketball, you have to acknowledge what's there and who's there. That's the best. That's the measuring stick. You're not going to look at Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, who's on the Lynx. Um, you're not going to look at Asia Wilson, who was the face of the league, multiple time MVP, multiple time Defensive Player of the Year. You're not gonna look at those three players just to look at one class and caliber of current players in the WNBA and tell me that Caitlin Clark is in that simply because she should be, or simply because of what you saw her do in college. We've learned this too many times, both in this league and in the NBA. And I hate to compare the MNBA and the WNBA because there's really no purpose. It's basketball, but you don't see people compare the NBA and the Euro League to the extent that they compare the NBA and the WNBA. You know what I'm saying? Um, it just doesn't happen. Like, it happens from time to time, but it doesn't happen on a daily. And I don't want the excuse that it's domestic, and there's so many like multiple partners. Like, the average person who's a Raiders fan has no idea that Mark Davis owns the Aces. So don't talk about overlap or that it's domestic, whatever. But the point is, right, that we've seen this happen too many times. Jimmy Fredette was my favorite player when I was 13. I've never seen nothing like it. And we saw that he did not materialize. My brother's favorite player was Shane Larkin. Didn't materialize. Russ Smith, Louisville, didn't materialize. It's tons of people. And then in the WNBA, like Sabrina Ionescu, who is the jury's out on her. I'm not a fan of Sabrina Ionescu's game. I don't think that she is, again, like she was good at Oregon. I don't think that her WNBA, whatever she's becoming in WNBA, I think it's just disappointing. And Kelsey Plum, like, it's before, Caitlin Clark had the record for most points in college. It was Kelsey Plum. And Plum Dog is so up and down. Like, I used to love her on the Aces. She was one of my favorite players. Um, and I think when her and Becky Hammon had a great relationship, you saw it materialize into what she was able to do on the floor. But the fact that she had so many games for the Aces last year where she found a way to disappear, you're playing next to multiple number one picks, playing next to Chelsea Gray, best point guard in the league. Like, it was baffling to me. I was like, well, how is she, so she clearly needed her own situation. Um, got her own situation. And even currently now for the Sparks, she's up and down too. She's very up and down for them. So one game she'll have 30, next game she'll have 4 and make a couple silly faces. It's confusing, like hoop, what I'm saying? Just hoop. But yeah, it's a good, like I said, going back to CC, it's a good measuring stick that the team was so close to them, but the team was so close to them because of one Aaliyah Boston, right? Number one overall pick, like consistently disrespected for no reason whatsoever. But y'all know but I'm just saying, like, she's disrespected for no reason though. Like, she's so good. She was so good for Dawn Staley, completely coachable, like every coach's dream, mismatch, intelligent, good feet, good balance. Just a player that can get you within a couple buckets of the defending champions, to be honest, right? Because CC had a terrible game. She had 9 missed threes. She had 10 turnovers. And I saw somebody on Twitter be like, well, there was on the other team only had 2 points off her turnovers. It doesn't matter. In football, what's one of the biggest stats? Time of possession. In basketball, they don't talk about it as much, right? It's just a little blurb at the bottom. But time of possession is super important in basketball. It's very important. And the amount of possessions that you have, yeah, they might have had 2 points off of that. But they had 8 more bites of the apple, 9 more bites of the apple, just straight off that. So what are we talking about here, right? Basketball is a game of probability. It's the same thing with shooting threes, and that's why when I get to the NBA, it's crazy that there's so many blowouts, but it's not going to stop and it's going to continue because people are going to continue to shoot threes at a high clip. They do not care. It's a game of probability. If you're decent enough at shooting and I'm decent enough at shooting, it doesn't matter who's in front of me. After a while, them joints gonna fall. That's how Anthony Edwards led the league in 3-point makes this year. Him and Beasley. Um, Beasley's a good shooter, though. To be honest, Malik Beasley's been a good shooter everywhere except for Los Angeles. Good shooter. Uh, the Mystics, both of their rookies are hooping right now. They look kind of good. I think when they get Aaliyah Edwards back, you can have a more adequate understanding of what they got going on. But they look kind of good right now. Yeah, I think that closes it out for the WNBA. Except the last thing I want to talk about very briefly is Paige Beckers. I think Paige Beckers is doing really well for the Wings, Not the numbers she would like, right? Maybe not the percentages she would like. Has to get a little bit sharper on her defensive rotations. Other than that, man, I mean, let's go. Let's hoop. I'm a big Paige fan. And she's scoring some tough buckets too. Like she fits in. She's just rolling with the punches. And I think because she's doing that, the numbers will come. Like she's just rolling with whatever is going on. So I think that the numbers will come. I'm pretty confident for her that the numbers will just materialize. Beckers is the one. She's the chosen one. Shout out to Paige. The roster construction is just goofy for the Wings. It's so goofy. Y'all have this tandem, Smith and Carrington on the team. Makes sense to have Carrington. Doesn't make sense to have Smith. And it's not just because Carrington's a better player. She's objectively a better player. Defensive player of the year caliber consistently in and out for the W. But Smith is a confusing basketball player because she gives you a lot on offense when she's cooking, but defensively she's not that, right? Like she's really a bad matchup for herself in the league because she has to play 5 or 4, but depending either way, like she's on again defensively, like she can't guard Adrian Wilson, she can't guard Aaliyah Boston, she can't guard Angel Reese, she can't guard Camila Cardoso. Like you could go up and down the list, and now you see they got that Demogorgon over in Seattle. Like she can't guard Nneka Ogumike, excuse me. She can't guard none of these people. So yeah, I mean, I just don't understand like why that's but I do. But she be starting sometimes. Can't start in Alyssa Smith if you're the Wings. Arika Arike Onguboale needs to pass the basketball. She's so good. I think she's very good. I love watching her on Rival. She's like an awesome isolation basketball player. You have Paige Beckers on your team. And by the way, this is Paige Beckers' team. I know no one has to tell you that, but this is Paige's show now. Give her the rock and trust that she'll give it back to you because she's shown that she will give the rock back to you. Caitlin Chen had one of the best seasons she ever had playing for UConn. Sarah Strong probably got some of the cleanest looks she ever got getting balls from Paige Beckers. Nika Mule, you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, we won't see her again until about 2026. Maybe, yeah, probably 2026. But played some of her best basketball with Paige Beckers. So don't be surprised, right? Like get right. All right, transitioning to the NBA now. Last night, Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves had something to say. Thank God. I love to watch the series extend. SGA just won MVP, and it really was starting to feel like watching that second game that Oklahoma City was just going to go ahead and run away with it. They have such a deep basketball team, folks. I mean, their rotation is cut, and they still have dudes that if God forbid one of the dudes in their main rotation went down, they just went in and it wouldn't feel so drastic. It would feel kind of seamless. Their rotation is actually ridiculous. Um, I saw Bill Simmons talk about it was either Bill Simmons or Russillo talk about how they're going to force their way into being an all-time team. They're 78 and 7 and 18 now. 79 and 18, something like that. And I mean, yeah, they're close, man. They're really close, close to the big one. They're a special basketball team. I like what Hartenstein is able to do, but I think that at the end of the day, if you're Minnesota, what worked for you yesterday, right? Obviously, you have to make your shots. Ant-Man has to be Ant-Man, but who's gonna guard Julius? Who's gonna guard Julius Randle, man? Naz Reid is so good. Big Jelly is so good, but he restricts himself by playing on the perimeter as much as he does, right? That and he's a little bit, since he had to cut a lot of weight. He probably like 230, 235. Julius Randle is so big and strong. He's 250, 6'10, 250. Could do everything on the basketball court. Love everybody who's ever looked at basketball has told you this. Magic Johnson, when he was an executive, he was like, I didn't want to get rid of Julius. LeVar Ball, when he talked about who was on the Lakers, who could have been better than Lonzo, he could have played with Lonzo. He said, hey, everybody sucked, but that boy Julius nice. Bron, Julius, DeMarcus Cousins, AD, everyone will tell you about Julius Randle, dog. It's not a coincidence. He is he is the X factor. He's got to put up 26, 27, 28 in game 4 for them to even have a fighting chance. They got a big 15 ball from Terrence Shannon Jr. previously out of Illinois. He had a big off the court issue, legal issue, that was his own doing, and he somehow still ended up in the league. He had a 47 clip in the G League for the Minnesota affiliate, and so he's a hooper, obviously, and so he gave them a big boost. If you are OKC, what's your counterpunch to that? It's 2-1. It's the game for Minnesota. I believe they do 2-3, 2-3-2 as the format. Could be wrong. I believe it's 2-3-2. It's either 2-3-2 or 2-2-1-1-1, but I don't think they do that for the sake of travel. I think it's 2-3-2. For the New York Knicks, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. I think the Knicks are better on paper, but the supporting cast for the Pacers was hooping over and on the supporting cast for the Knicks. If you're the supporting cast for the Knicks, if you're a campaign, like if you're one of those players who's not getting a lot of minutes, you have to use the most out of the minutes, especially while y'all are playing at the Garden. How do you drop 2 games at Madison Square Garden when you're favored? It seemed like they were overwhelmingly favored in every aspect. They had one game where Brunson had 43 and lost, right? Yes, Halliburton had that shot. It felt lucky, da 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 da. Bounce back. And I know it's hard. I've been a fan of teams that have suffered stuff like that, where you just have this back-breaking shot to send the game to overtime, but you have to bounce back from that, right? You have to remind yourself that you're the New York Knicks and that you have all of these dudes at your disposal, that you made these trades for these moments. You got Cat for these moments. You got Mikal Bridges. You gave up 5 dudes who's 15 right now. You gave them dudes up for this moment, for these moments. And you guys are dropping the ball. What's that about? I seen a little clip of them fighting on the bench. I'm not gonna make too much of that because you know these players, they do get be in heated situations, and the garden is so loud, they probably have to scream to even hear each other from off rip. But at the same time, like, why are y'all fighting? Jalen Brunson, you were the captain. You wanted your own team for this moment. You took a $100 million pay cut for this moment. Put your C on and get your dudes on board and go to work. You know, this is crazy. Like dropping 2 at the Garden is insanity. And in one of the games, Halliburton had like 14. They're making this out to be, Halliburton is this villain. He is. I think he fits the villain bill. I think he loves wearing it. His dad's storyline just kind of helped. But don't let the supporting cast beat you. Don't let TJ McConnell and Andrew Nebhard and Benedict Mathurin and Pascal Siakam, don't let them dudes beat you. And that's not to take anything away from all of them dudes. But the issue with the Pacers and the Knicks, as far as the matchups, is length. If the Knicks are in foul trouble and in productivity, you see Karl Anthony Towns is benched in the second game. This is going to be a decision that's going to be looked back at by Tom Thibodeau for years down the line. And as far as Knicks history for years down the line, if it made sense to do. If I'm the Pacers, sure, bench Karl Anthony Towns and put Josh Hart at the 4, because now if you have Mitch Robinson, if you have Precious Achiuwa at the 5, if you have OG, it doesn't matter. If you have somebody who's at least 6'8", 6'9" at the 5, that's great. I could put in Miles Turner, and then he'll stretch the floor. We can run a lot of 5 outs anyway. But the 4 spot is pretty exploitable from with Josh Hart, and then we're on if we the Pacers, we're gonna tire him out first because Josh Hart is chasing around who? Aaron Nesmith, because he doesn't want to repeat a game one. Nesmith had that 1-3 he hit where Josh Hart like he like slipped and then he stood up again and he still got a hand and he drained that hole right over his face. You don't think that was demoralizing for Josh Hart, bro? Mind you, this is a dude who's won big in the Garden, playing for Villanova, playing for the New York Knicks. And that, I mean, demoralizing. If you the Knicks, man, I need to see the best counterpuncher of all time. They either play tonight, Sunday, or they play tomorrow, Monday. I'm not sure, but we're gonna get that episode out for the people. The Knicks, you know, I need more. I need better. I need better from New York. Like I said, the Pacers are outpacing them. But the problem with the Pacers now, and they've experienced this going into every series they played, being that underdog. If you go and play the Oklahoma City Thunder, I can't describe to you the level of underdog you are because I don't see them matching up with the Thunder. The Thunder are going to squash them if they play them. If they play the Timberwolves, I see that being a little bit more competitive. Um, if they are the East selection, for the finals based on if they win or not. But overall, episode 20 minutes, a short one, but just had to get this out. Happy Sunday, happy Memorial Day weekend to everybody out there. Hope y'all having a good one. Let me know how we feeling in the comments. It's your man. Deuces.